Hey mates, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kaitlyn and I am an American expat learning to live down under in beautiful Sydney, Australia. And it is time. I have seen this video before and it has been torn apart all over the internet. Tristan Kuhn's almost infamous 10 things he hates about Australia. For those of you who don't know, Tristan Kuhn was an American backpacker who was over in Australia last year, but he posted this video back in June of 2020 and the internet kind of tore him a new one over this. There are huge YouTubers like Isaac Butterfield, like Aussie English, a couple of TikTokers, and so many others who have tore this video to shreds. And while some of those reaction videos are incredibly entertaining, they are all posted by Australians. So today, as an American expat, I am reacting to this video about another American reacting to things he hates about Australia. So I'm going to share some of the stuff in this list that I agree with and some stuff that as an American I think he got completely wrong. So if you want to see an American reacting to an American talking about things he hates about Australia, stay tuned.
Number one is the sun. So yes, even though the same sun they see in Australia is the same sun you see in America, the sun here is different. There is actually a hole in the ozone layer of the atmosphere above Australia, so the sun here is much more strong and it burns you way more quickly than it will anywhere in the States. So the extra strong, stinging sun is the first thing that I do not like about Australia.
Tristan, honey, just put on sunscreen and you'll be fine. As a very pale person myself, I burn so easily. 5 minutes in the Australian sun and I look like a cooked lobster. The sun is not a reason to hate Australia. And coming from Philadelphia, it was very cold. I really didn't have to worry about the sun or sunscreen for the most part up until it was summer, or as I got a little bit older and just started wearing sunscreen every day, because if you're not, you should be wearing sunscreen every day. But overall, the sun and its intensity isn't a reason to hate Australia. Just put on some sunscreen, reapply it regularly, and you will be just fine. The sun is not a reason to hate or even really dislike Australia. I actually love how sunny it is here, how typically there's a little rain. Right now we're going through La Nina, so of course it has been downpours like day after day after day, but normally Australia is a very sunny place overall. So Tristan, honey, sorry, I don't agree with you on this one at all. As an American, I don't think the sun is a reason to hate or even dislike Australia, but again, that is just one American girl's opinion to one American boy's opinion. Let's move on to the next point.
Now the next thing is more of just a minor inconvenience, but that is you cannot pay for gas at the pump. You actually have to walk inside the gas station to pay for gas. I don't understand why you just can't pay at the pump like you do in America. I have heard that there are a couple gas stations in Australia where you can do that, but it's like, I don't know. I've never seen it since I've been here. And if they do have them, then they're just really rare. Oh, it's also cheaper. For some reason, gas is like a lot more expensive here. Now,
gas is more expensive. Have you ever heard of the word import? Australia has to import all of the gas and petrol over to Australia. It's not exactly an oil-rich country. So yes, gas, petrol is more expensive over here in Australia than it is in the States. As for paying at the pump, he did say that there are some that do this. To be honest, I have never experienced one, but I've only been in Australia for like literally a total of less than 2 months. I think maybe 7 weeks if you want to count out the days from the time that I visited before in 2019 and the time that I am here now. I also don't drive. I have not had the experience of having to pay for gas. So whether or not this is true, let me know down in the comments, guys. Do you only see gas stations where you have to go in and pay, or do you also have stations where you can pay at the pump? As an American, I can't really say because this isn't my experience just yet, but I can see why that would be annoying to somebody coming from the States if there are only gas stations that make you go inside to pay.
my next one, oh, this really frustrates me sometimes, and that is you cannot turn on red here. So in America, you can turn right on at a stoplight. Well, they drive on the left side of the road here, so it'd be like turning left here. Well, you're not allowed to do that. Nothing is more frustrating than being stuck at a red light, knowing that you are perfectly safe to turn left. There are no cars, but you're not able to do it.
So I know he's got a lot of flack for this point, but as an American, I can see where he's coming from. In America, turning right is the equivalent of turning left in Australia because we drive on different sides of the road. And unless there are intersections that specify with a sign no turn on red, you can turn right at a red light, which would be the equivalent of turning left at a red light in Australia. I think there are some intersections where it indicates that you can do this, but typically in Australia, you're going to find those traffic lights that have a red or a green arrow. We don't have those as much in the States. Whereas in the States, you can turn right at a red light. If there's no oncoming traffic, if you know it's safe to turn, you can proceed to make that turn. You don't have to sit and wait for the entire light, especially if there's literally nobody else around you. I know a lot of people kind of consider this like a safety thing. It's safer to just wait, but really it can be a lot more inconvenient. Sometimes it could be completely unnecessary to have to wait when you know that there's no other traffic. So while I do understand why Australians would get really annoyed at this point, I can see where he's coming from as somebody who came from the States and is honestly just used to being able to turn right at a red light.
Number 4 is something that doesn't bother me one bit because I don't drink sodas, but it would really piss a lot of Americans off, and that is that there are no free refills. As a bartender, so at the restaurant I worked at, a soft drink would cost $4.50, which is equal to about $3 US. On top of that, like once you put ice in it, it was so small, like it was probably less than half a can of soda that actually went in it. And there were kids who would get like 2 or 3 soft drinks over their meal, and just right there, that would cost the same amount as their meal. So all you Americans out there who like your refills, be thankful that you're in America, because there's pretty much nowhere else in the world that does free refills like we do.
He sounds so proud of nobody does free refills like we do. Okay, point 1, America, great. We're great at giving you guys free refills when you come to the States. So overall, the free refills thing, yeah, it can be a little bit annoying, but I don't really think that's that unreasonable for a place to charge you for a second or third or fourth drink. Now, if they're filling it up to the brim with ice and giving you like that much in there, then maybe I would turn around and be like, can you like light ice, please? Like take some of this out, actually give me something to drink. I don't want to chew on ice for half my meal. But overall, I don't think that's an issue. And as long as they're giving you free water, that's really not a problem. Like if you go into a restaurant and you're going to order, let's say an iced tea, and it comes out and you want something extra, drink a glass of water. Like why do you need 4 iced teas throughout your meal? And obviously in this he's referring to places that are like an actual sit-down restaurant or a bar. He's not talking about takeout places like Macca's, like Hungry Jack's or Wendy's, which I don't even know if you guys have over here in Australia, but I really want some of their chicken nuggets now that I was just thinking about Wendy's. Anywho, not the takeout places, the actual type of sit-down restaurants. You're not going to find places that offer free refills throughout Australia, or if they do, they are very rare. So I can kind of see his point, but at the same time, it's like a mild inconvenience, and I don't see anything wrong with just getting water after having an iced tea. But that's just me, to each their own.
Alright, now this one really gets me. This is, of all the things I dislike about Australia, this one, like, I really hate. Like, this is a true hate about Australia. And that is that they have speed cameras everywhere. Like, you cannot speed here in Australia. Now, you can argue, that, like, speed cameras keep people safe. Like, you shouldn't be speeding anyways. But I guarantee you, if you drive, there's not a single person out there who has never sped in their life. And the speeding cameras here aren't like police in the US where, like, they're not going to get you for going 4 miles over the speed limit. Like, once you're getting close to 10, that's when you get a ticket. Here, if you're going 3 kilometers over the speed limit, which is equal to about 2 miles per hour, you're gonna get a ticket. And I just don't think that's reasonable. To me, it seems like a little bit of an overstep from the government to just be like mailing tickets because they like got you on camera. Like, I don't know, I don't like the feeling of being like surveyed everywhere and having cameras all around me. And that's just like one thing that I don't really agree with here.
So this is one of those points where, like, again, I think he's kind of right about some things and wrong about others. Like speed cameras, I don't think are necessarily a bad thing if it's going to deter people from speeding ridiculously down the highway. But at the same time, if the speed limit is 80 k's an hour and you're going 83 k's an hour for like even just a short little length, and you get caught on a speeding camera and get a couple $100 in a fine, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. That is the equivalent of literally going 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit in the States. And if you think about the odometers, like they're small and there's a little bit, so if you're not exactly on that line, it's a little bit of a headache and a little bit of a hassle. So I think if they're sending fines out for like 2 or 3 Ks over the speed limit, that is absolutely ridiculous and that is an overstep. But I think having speed cameras isn't a bad thing at all. If somebody's going like 5, 10, 15 Ks faster than they're supposed to, then yeah, they probably deserve to get caught on the camera. They probably deserve to have a fine sent over to them. As somebody who used to work in a law firm where we handled motor vehicle accidents, I've seen so many injuries, literally traumatic brain injuries, even as crazy as it sounds, from motor vehicle accidents. There are people whose lives literally get ruined from motor vehicle accidents. So I think having speed cameras to deter people from speeding is actually a great thing, because it does keep people a little bit more aware when they're driving, which is more than likely going to keep people a little bit safer on the roads. So while speed cameras can be annoying, and I don't think they're necessarily a reason to hate Australia, if they are sending out fines for going 2-3 Ks over the speed limit, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. That is completely unfair, and I think that there needs to be a little bit of reasonableness and leniency when it comes to sending out fines for driving slightly over the speed limit. So if you're liking this video so far, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family. I post weekly about the differences between American and Australian culture and the overall process of learning to live down under here in Sydney, Australia.
Next thing I don't like about Australia is the Wi-Fi here as a whole is just kind of shitty. As someone who uploads YouTube videos, it usually takes for like a 10-minute YouTube video around like 20 to 30 minutes for it to upload. That's on like my fast internet back home in the US. Here, if I'm trying to upload about a 10-minute YouTube video, it's gonna take probably between 5.5 to 7 hours to upload. And ironically, Australians are like kind of proud of the fact that they invented the internet, is what they say. Like, an Australian guy invented the internet. So I don't know why, if you invented the internet, your internet is still so bad. Next.
So yeah, compared to the States, the internet over here in Australia isn't great. It's not as bad as he's saying. I don't know how it takes him over an hour to upload a video. I uploaded one a couple days ago, and I think it took 15 minutes, which is only a little bit slower than the time it took me to upload something over in the States. I don't know if they're still super low on that list of internet speeds. I think they were like 46 before or something like that, which is incredibly low. Yeah, the internet here in Australia really isn't that great. Coming from the US, it is a little bit of a downgrade, let's say, but it's not like it's unreasonable. It's not like they're using dial-up. So yeah, the internet in Australia here does suck compared to America. That's kind of just the hard truth of it. So yeah, I do think Tristan's actually right on this one.
Next one isn't too big of a deal, but it does get a little annoying, and that is you pretty much always have to pay extra for like any condiments, sauces you want, and it's usually like quite expensive for some sauce. Like, you're gonna be paying between like 50 cents and $2 for a little bit of sauce. So yeah, for something that's usually free and included in your meal, that definitely frustrates me about Australia.
So it is a little annoying that you do have to pay extra for condiments, but at the same time, it does make sense. I think in America, we're so used to getting things for free. We're so used to those little extra deals here and there. And I think we're such like a bargain happy country that if we don't get free sauces or something like that, we feel like we're being ripped off. Whereas here in Australia, you're getting something. Like, you do have to pay to get something. If you want sauce, you have to pay for it. So I don't think it's unreasonable that places here actually charge you for sauce. I do understand why it's kind of annoying coming from the States, where that is something you're used to getting for free. Like, that's almost the equivalent of going someplace and them charging you for disposable napkins or something along those lines. It's a little off-putting and a little annoying, but the reality is, at the end of the day, if you want something, you do have to pay for it. And this is something that, growing up in America, I think we've kind of gotten a little bit spoiled to. That, along with the free refills.
This one is another one that really frustrates me, because this is another thing that I think is just like a kind of like an overstep of the government, and that is that they mandate, like, it is illegal to ride a bike here without wearing a helmet. Obviously, it's smart to wear a helmet, no one's doubting that, but I think I should be able to choose whether I wear a helmet or not. Like, I'm an adult. I think most adults should be able to make decisions like that. Additionally, this helmet rule doesn't apply for like skateboarding, like scootering, longboarding, like anything like that. It only applies to bikes. Skateboards are so much more deadly and so much more dangerous than a bike, but you don't need a helmet for them. Like, I know more people than I can count on one hand that have gone into a coma or have died from skateboarding, from hitting their head. If you included concussions, I know more people than I could count on two hands that have gotten either a concussion, coma, or died from a skateboard. But a bike, I don't know anyone. Like, if you're mountain biking and going on hard trails, you're most likely smart enough to put on a helmet and like you can think for yourself. Or if you're just gonna go for a stroll around your neighborhood, you're probably not gonna put a helmet on, but that's your choice to make. So I don't know, I get a little frustrated by that, but that is just another thing as an American I hate about Australia.
Wow, he really does hate safety. I can see why so many people tore him a new one. Wearing a helmet is not just for you. And I'm going to say this as somebody who, again, like I said, I've dealt with car accidents. I've seen the medical injuries. I've seen the pictures. I've heard horror stories. And wearing a helmet, yes, it is obviously going to protect you. But imagine if you were the person who was driving a car and some careless biker just cuts in front of you and you end up hitting them. Not only are you going to feel incredibly guilty at some point for causing injury to somebody, but imagine if they weren't wearing a helmet and they hit their head and they died from it, if they were in a coma from it. So this is not just protecting you, but it's also protecting the other people around you. Further to the point, wearing helmets is just, it should be common sense. Like riding a motorbike, you have to wear a helmet here. It's not optional. So over in the States, I don't know if there's some limit at some point. Like States, I don't know if it's like a yearly limit. After you've had your license for so many years, you don't have to wear a helmet, or if people are just morons and choose not to. But the reality is wearing a helmet can save your life. Like that's the hard reality of it. When my partner was in a motorbike accident 2 years ago, wearing a helmet literally saved his life. He would not be here today if he wasn't wearing one. Would he have worn one if they were mandated or not? I don't know. I like to think that he has enough common sense that he would have worn a helmet anyway. But there are so many other people who probably would have been a lot more careless and a lot more reckless and wouldn't have worn one. There are people who come out of crashes from wearing helmets. There are people who are alive today because they wore helmets. And this isn't just for motorbikes, this isn't just for bicycles. I think wearing a helmet overall when you are skateboarding, when you're biking, when you're on a motorbike, it just makes sense. It's common sense. It's like getting in the car and wearing a seatbelt. I don't know why this is such a difficult point and such a frustrating point, and I don't know why he thinks that this is an overstep from the government. Like, not getting political here, I don't know enough about the Australian government, but overall, mandating that people wear helmets is literally just keeping their population safe. Is it a small inconvenience? Yeah, it is. But isn't it a lot better for people to walk away from accidents like this with bumps and scraps and maybe a couple of broken bones compared to severe head trauma? TBIs. There are so many more reasons to wear a helmet than to not. Yes, it can be inconvenient, especially when it is ridiculously hot. Wearing a helmet when it was, 110 degrees Fahrenheit when I was here in 2019, it was very uncomfortable. But the reality is, if you're on a motorbike or even if you're just on a regular bike, this is something that you need to take seriously. Be safe. I don't understand why this is something you would hate or even dislike about Australia.
Next one, tobacco and cigarettes here are so highly taxed, like insanely taxed. It's going to be like, depending on where you're at, what you're getting, it's going to be like 2 to 3 times more to get tobacco and cigarettes here than it is back in the US. I don't smoke cigarettes, but if you do, a pack of cigarettes here costs between 20 and 35 US dollars. Like, just to give you an idea for how expensive.
As far as cigarettes and tobacco goes, tax the hell out of it. Make it practically unaffordable that you are wasting hundreds of dollars per week to smoke your life away. As far as I'm concerned, cigarettes are horrible, tobacco is horrible, there's no health benefits, there's no reason to do it, it's completely unhealthy. And yeah, I may sound a little condescending saying that, but overall, yeah, tax the hell out of those. As far as alcohol goes, yeah, alcohol is a lot more expensive because, again, all of these products have to be imported. It's not like the States where we have dozens and dozens of different breweries, where we have different tax laws, where it's coming from a shorter destination, where it's not going to take as long to get to the States. We have different rules and tax regulations over in the States that Australia doesn't have. So it is more expensive in Australia because it does take a lot more to get it to Australia. It doesn't cost that much for a bottle of Jack Daniels that's made in the States to make its way through all 50 states. It doesn't take a lot of driving or flying, unless maybe you're going to Hawaii, compared to getting that exact same bottle imported all the way over to Australia. So alcohol is really expensive over here in Australia. Wine can be fairly cheap because there are some amazing wineries over here in Australia. But if you're looking for more of like the liquor and spirits type of stuff, you are going to end up paying a little bit more in Australia just because it costs so much to bring it over.
and that is the damn flies here. The flies, the bugs, whatever you want to call them, like, they are so pesky and annoying here. Like, the bugs in general just kind of like, you know, get in your face, they're annoying. But the flies are aggressive. Like, they are, I can't even explain them. Like, they just attack you. When you try to hit them off your face, like, they just come back, they buzz right around here, and you cannot get rid of them. Like, ugh. I wish I could explain the flies here, but they are just a different animal than flies in America.
So I 100% agree with him about this. The flies over here in Australia are terrible compared to the ones over in the States. The ones in the States, for the most part, will leave you alone. The ones over here in Australia do not want to leave you alone. They are not afraid of you. They have no problem flying all over you. They will land on your face. They will land on your eyes, in your mouth. Like, it is disgusting. They have no shame over here in Australia.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
The flies, yes, they're an important part of the ecosystem, I get that, and it's one of the reasons why there are so many spiders and so many types of spiders, because there are so many flies over here in Australia. But the flies over here are terrible compared to the ones in the States. They're bigger for the most part, they're louder. Like you said, some of them bite. The flies here in Australia are absolutely terrible, like 10 out of 10. I completely agree with Tristan on this. The flies here suck. So that is it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family. I post weekly about the differences between American and Australian culture and overall learning to live down under here in Sydney, Australia. My name is Kaitlyn, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.